Welcome back. Another episode in the Fluency Storytelling series. I'm now the CSL Trailblazer. Hopefully this can give you some context for helping you improve your fluency. And what I'm basically doing by this series is taking some old episodes that I've made about vocabulary and complementing them with this storytelling episode so that you can get some context for the explanations and descriptions I gave you. In today's episode, I'm reliving a real oldie but a goodie, describing problems. It was episode 4 at the very beginning of this ESL Trailblazer channel journey, and if you want to check that out, boom, it's right here. Excellent episode, very practical language on how to use synonyms for the word problem, which has a negative connotation in English, and there's a lot, and also verbs that go with it. So today I'm going to try and share with you a story of mine where I'm going to try and use as many of the words as possible from that lesson. We'll see how it goes. Get ready, because one of the biggest problems we all face, regardless of what profession we're in, is when we try and find that first job after we've been trained or after we graduate from university. And that's the story I'm going to tell you about today. Was when I first got my English teaching diploma certificate and I went out looking for that job. Here we go, right after this message. Welcome back, everybody. Remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you do, it really helps. I could use all the feedback, and remember, if you want to keep up, you can also sign up for the newsletter. The link is below that takes you to my website. I release one newsletter a month, monthly newsletter, the First One Up Fridays newsletter, and in that one I give you updates on these videos as well as the blog posts and maybe some lesson ideas from time to time. Okay, so without further ado, let's get this party started. So, as some of you might know who watch these videos, when you become a teacher, a lot of the times you have no prior experience, and I was one of those. I had a degree from university, but no teaching. All I did was that 1-month TEFL course in Prague, and then I decided to get on a train and come to Krakow and look for that job. It was April 2005, the end of winter, the beginning of spring. I was really enthusiastic and I was optimistic. However, I found myself in a predicament immediately, and that predicament actually led to a few setbacks and eventually as well as obstacles. However, I got good news, because once I overcame those obstacles and setbacks, I got out of my predicament and I ended up successfully finding that first job. So what happened? Basically, I arrived there, and what posed a challenge immediately was the fact that the school year was towards the end, and they only hire in Poland generally in like September when the new school year begins, and the teachers that they get are the ones that they keep for the entire school year. So right there, that was a predicament that I wasn't expecting to be in, and it right away posed some challenges and difficulties for me and what I was going to do about finding this job. So I started by walking around town and looking for the signs of the language schools, and I just started walking in. The issue was that most of the time when I walked into the school, the person in charge of hiring people was not there, or they were busy, or they were teaching, so I always walked in at the wrong time. That was an issue. So I had to keep coming back, but very often what was happening was I was getting told the same thing. Sorry, but right now we're not hiring anybody because the year is slowly coming to an end. All right, that was one setback that I experienced immediately. Another obstacle that I had to overcome was the language barrier and getting around, because I didn't know the language almost at all. Okay, a further obstacle to that was the fact that I needed to find accommodation also. So that posed a serious challenge, and I had issues with that because, again, it was at a time of year where nobody looks for apartments, because this happens again when all the students are coming in the fall, and there was limited availability. I also was clueless as to how to go about finding an apartment in a foreign country. So I asked for some help from the hostel staff that I had become familiar with by talking to them on a daily basis, and they kind of guided me and helped me overcome the obstacles and the hurdles around that issue with the accommodation. However, another issue that arose was the financial issue. I only had a limited amount of funds. So there was only a certain amount of time at my disposal for finding this job and accommodation. Maybe a month maximum, if I remember correctly. And after 1 week, I started to become pessimistic because the challenges kept mounting, and I felt like there were more difficulties than actually solutions that were going to help me reach my goal of finding this job. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the schools just kept getting ticked off the list that didn't need a teacher. And then on one day, maybe 2 weeks into the endeavor, I was walking in the park and suddenly a woman with a baby carriage stopped me and in perfect English said to me, "Excuse me, are you looking for a teaching job?" And I thought, oh my goodness. Are you, I don't know, my fairy godmother? Are you going to wave a magic wand and somehow solve all my problems right here, right now, stranger? So that woman did end up being the answer to my prayers, which are all expressions that I did in that episode 4 video. Okay, she answered my prayers because her and her husband had a private school, and she had heard me go into a school and ask for a job because she knew the people there, and that's why she had approached me. So I had no idea who she was, and I hadn't noticed her in the school that I had visited. But boom, just like that, she answered my prayers, and I ended up getting a job. The issue with the job was that it was only 5 hours a week. However, somehow I found a solution to my other obstacle, which was the accommodation, and it ended up being extremely inexpensive. So it all came together, and just over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks later, I managed to have a job and a place to live, and ta-da! I tied up all my loose ends and stayed in Krakow and managed to work for an entire summer before the fall, when I was able to apply to schools and actually get a full-time gig. That's my story. I used a lot of language there that you can get from episode 4. I hope you found the story interesting and the language useful. Please comment. I'll see you back here for another fluency storytelling session. Take care. Share if you care. Later.